people for these awards. There is a nomination form, and we will share that in the chat. So please take a moment to think about who is deserving of our awards in the categories of trailblazer, innovation, and real world impact. Your input is really key on determining, you know, who should receive these awards for 2023. I don't think there's anyone brand new here. I think that all of you have been here. Gina and Helen, you have joined us before, and the rest of you, we all know. So we will skip on over. I do want to draw your attention to this new QR code invite that Robin Mulder created for us, which is super cool. And we want to start using that. If we print it out and have it available, like on the back of a conference badge, we can turn it over when we meet someone and let them scan it so they will be able to join us here for our Wednesday meetings. So let's start making use of that. Okay, I mentioned the XR Women Awards. They're also the Augie Awards, the official AWE awards at that conference, which is May 31st through June 2nd. And please nominate yourself. Nominate other women. Don't be shy. Don't be worried about nominating yourself. Put yourself out there. Nominate each other. We need to receive these awards and to be visible in these spaces. Our own Jenna Lambert is presenting at the VR/AR Chicago Next Evolution on April 5th. That's 2 weeks from today, I believe. And yeah, Jenna has done some really interesting work in healthcare, a lot of other fields too. So we're excited about hearing from her on that. And VR/AR Chicago has been a good partner to us as well. Caroline works with them to help present some of the events, and they are very careful to make sure that they have women presenters. So keep an eye out on what they have going on. Maybe talk to Caroline if you might be interested in presenting there. Sometimes she might be able to help you out. Upcoming events, GDC going on right now, and NVIDIA, GTC. I don't know if you all saw the keynote speech by Jensen Huang, but it's really fascinating and will blow your mind when you see the pace at which things are developing. I mean, wow, it's pretty crazy. And IEEE VR and user interfaces starts later this week. And coming up in April, Laval Virtual. Okay, Julie put together this collection of resources for us about AI and different tools that you can use to start creating with AI and playing around in it. There is the Blockade Labs 360 World Generator, which is at blockadelabs.com. NVIDIA's Promethean AI World Builder, and that is at prometheanai.com. And she also shared an article talking about how AI and VR will have the biggest impact on kids in the future. So thank you, Julie, for sharing those resources. These are just the kinds of things that we need to share with one another as our field develops very, very quickly, and we need to stay on top of developments and learn as much as we can. Julie also has been playing around with AI herself. She put in deepai.org a text-to-image prompt, and she put in a confident group of women learning together with a purple accent. And this is what she came up with. Looks a little bit different for the environment, certainly from our XR Women Hall, but kind of nice to think about that. And is something that we make a reality every week, right? Okay, so November 30th, there are a series of concerts in Engage by Fatboy Slim. I am so excited about this. I think a group of people have signed up to join. So it would be great if we can be there together. I realized am not available at the 8 p.m. slot on March 30th. So, but would love to come in and dance with you all there. Maybe at 6 p.m. Eastern or at 11 p.m. Eastern. Yeah, would love to connect with you all on this, and it should be a lot of fun. Engaged, trying to help fill the gap that was left by the sunsetting of AltSpace. We are very proud and pleased. Pardon? Did someone just say? Oh, I think I'm hearing feedback from Judy, who just arrived. Welcome, Judy. Good to see you. So Athena Demos was featured on the cover of Adello magazine in an issue that featured embracing Web3 communities. Beautiful photo. We're super proud of Athena for her work being recognized there. Yes, let's give her a round of applause. And
Can you remind us who Athena Demos is?
What she does, she is the CEO and producer for BRC which is Big Rock Creative VR. And she brought Burning Man into VR in 2020 in AltSpace. So Burning Man had only been in person previously, and it couldn't happen in person in 2020 because of the pandemic. And so she orchestrated making it virtual and letting it happen there. And it has happened in VR as well as in real life in years since. And that's not the only thing she does, but that's probably the thing that she is best known for. Yeah. Okay. Next week, wow, already March 29th, Sonia Haskins is going to talk to us about 10 tips to make your talk proposal stand out. And as you know, the head of programming at Augmented World Expo, she knows what she's talking about. So this is going to be really valuable information. Really looking forward to that. And Sonia is another dear member of our community who we always love talking to. Then we will have Victoria Busis on an elevator pitch workshop. Elevator pitches are key to get those down, and she will help us with that. And then Helen Irwin, we're going to go visit. We're going to take a field trip that day and go to Spatial, which is where she has moved her Four Mothers Cafe from AltSpace, and she will be talking to us there about her journey as an immigrant and how VR and building spaces contributed to her finding a place and finding a home. Then Louise Edwards, wow, who has done some really cool stuff in regard to protecting oceans through VR. That's going to be fascinating. She just did a long trek, and can't wait to hear her stories and ask her questions about it. And now we come to today's speaker, DotCannon. For those of you who don't know, DotCannon is a broadcaster, speaker, podcaster, and independent reporter. She's the president of Two Mavericks Multimedia, which is based in Long Beach, California, and she hosts a weekly podcast called Over Coffee, which explores creativity at the intersection of art and science. And you know, the intersection of art and science is something that we're really seeing come to the fore with these generative AI tools, right? Dot also has 21 years of radio experience, and she is learning to create virtual reality experiences. She teaches virtual maker workshops on creativity and exploring the ways that science, technology, engineering, and math underscore the arts. And boy, they really do. Her favorite workshop so far was using a Halloween maker workshop that used thoughts, LED lighting, and a popular illusion. In her workshops, Dot's goal is to give listeners techniques and resources that they can take away and use in the areas of maker skills, podcasting, speaking, and creativity. So Dot, did you join me here on the stage? Yes, there you are.
Here I am.
Okay. I am going to turn it over to you and go take a seat, and really looking forward to what you have for us today.
Fantastic. Thank you. The one thing I have to ask is thanks to all the audio stuff. I don't really know about slides yet. I do have some slides, so I'm going to assume that they're going to work behind me. If anybody can cue me in on how to work those. If not, I can simply give you the presentation from here.
Okay, Dot. I was not aware that you had slides, but yes, if you can share them for you.
Yes, I had sent them to Colleen before, but
okay, I will dig those out, and my apologies.
Oh, no apology needed. Well, I'm just going to start here so I don't waste anybody's time. And what I'm going to say is I'm going to ask you to imagine something. I'm going to ask you to imagine that you are on a stage. It can be virtual, it can be in person, and there are about 100 people waiting to hear your message. Now, do you feel excited or do you feel nervous? And if you're like most speakers, the answer is a little both. I realize we have some very seasoned speakers here today, and we also have a few folks who are just starting. I would never in my whole life have thought that I was going to be a public speaker. I'm a broadcaster. I hid behind the mic for the really longest time. I almost got into it accidentally. But I have discovered I really love public speaking. I suspect you do too. Today, I would like to share with you some tips on public speaking that even if you've given a zillion speeches, may be helpful to you in terms of moving your speaking to the next level. I'd like to share with you some math, believe it or not, about public speaking, and I'm going to make this interactive if that's fine with you, because one thing about virtual speaking is we've all got a zillion things flooding in on us from other places. And even if you're really engaged, you might be tempted to look at something else. I'll be asking you some questions if that's good with you. And I'd like you to have some takeaways from this that'll be helpful to you as speakers. Sound good? First thing I'm going to do is ask you the question. When you talk about your work, what is it that you are selling and how does that relate to your story? When you talk about your work, what is it that you're selling and how does that relate to your story? Quick story from me. About 10 years ago, I upgraded my skills as a broadcaster by going to this great community college. Had a lot of fantastic, passionate teachers there as mentors, one of whom was a gentleman by the name of Scott Carter, whom we totally miss. He passed away very suddenly. But something he gave me is something I'd like to share with you. What was happening was the school made some headlines, not for a good reason. There was upper management, and they had a few kerfuffles, to put it in the vernacular, that got attention. And they got some not worldwide, but nationwide headlines. I was doing a radio show at that point. Did I hear somebody say that the slides are working? No? Okay, I'll go on. I was doing a radio show at that point, and Scott said to me, why don't you have some of the members of the Board of Trustees on and talk about what's happening? Well, I'd never moderated a panel before in my life. I said, okay, thinking I'd get one or two people. Day of the presentation, the phone kept ringing at the student station. Dot, I'll be there. Hi, Dot, I'll be there too. Until I had 4 people coming for my little 1-hour presentation. And I was panicking because I'd never done this before. I turned to Scott and I said, Scott, I have 4 people coming. What do I do? And he said, Dot, everybody has something to sell, and so do you. And if you keep that in mind, this presentation is going to go great. He was absolutely right. The 4 Board of Trustees members came, and they talked about what they were selling, air quotes here. their viewpoints about what was going on campus. We explored what each one of them thought, their perspectives. They all left happy, and whew, I survived. Now, what is it that you are selling when you talk about your work, and how does that relate to your story? Two-part question, because all of us are many stories. And I'd like to do our first exercise here with you now, because according to a wonderful article by Dr. Susan Weinschenk, behavioral scientist in Psychology Today, the whole brain engages when an audience hears stories versus just one or two parts when you hear facts. There we go. Yay. Slides. Woohoo. All right. Could we advance, please, to about the third slide? I'm not entirely sure how we do this, but okay.
Do you see the presentation tool on the bottom right of the screen?
I do. Is there some way that I advance this here?
Yes.
Yes.
You can use that too.
Hello. There is a move to next page arrow, which is not working right at the moment. Okay.
Well, I'll come up and I can advance them for you, Dot. How's that?
That would be fantastic. Thank you. I'll continue. Every one of us is many stories, and your audience will listen with their whole brains if you tell a story. Next slide, please. Great. What I would like to ask you is, when you talk about your work, which story from your background illustrates that? It can be a who, a what, or a why. And I'd like to see if, oh, not that one yet, please. Let's stop at that one. Great. Thank you for helping me with this. Which story from your background is the one that you would use in about 30 seconds to illustrate what it is that you do? I'll ask for maybe 3 volunteers, with the warning that you're dooming yourself to hearing another story from me if I don't get volunteers. Would someone be comfortable sharing about 30 seconds about one of their stories, about what they do, or who inspired them to do it, or why they do it? Please. Let's go with, I see a hand over here on my right first. Evie, how about you?
Hi there. Okay, so a story from my past that that really influenced what I do today is a story that is probably common to a lot of us. Losing a lot of my jobs during the pandemic, but drawing on the strength from stuff before. When I was just out of college, um, my new job it started going downhill after about 4 years because I had a near-death experience, and so my job performance plummeted before I realized I had PTSD and had to get help. And so I lost that job, and it was crushing because I had always been really driven and always really, really on top of everything, and just not having that as part of my identity anymore, that perfect attention to everything, really messed with me. And so when I lost all of my entertainment jobs during the pandemic, I realized I had already done this. I had already done it. I had already gone through this loss of identity, and I had picked myself up and gone in a new direction. And I realized immediately, like it was the gunshot at the start of a race, and I've done so much since then. So that's something that I look back on and cling to, and actually talk about quite a lot when this question comes up. It's that realizing that I already had it in me because of past experiences.
Discovering who you were in a real phoenix from the ashes story. That is a fantastic one. Thank you, Evie. I also saw Sarah raise her hand, and let me mute my microphone here. Sarah, I'm going to ask you for your story.
Thanks, Dot. I'm loving this. So I am working on my PhD in media psychology. I'm doing my dissertation in VR, and what I thought of as I heard you speak was what came up for me is my design. How am I designing my protocol? And I want it to have a lot of joy, and a lot of it's coming from my childhood. I grew up on a commune, believe it or not, for half my life, and kind of grew up like a wild child. And that comes up a lot for me as I design this protocol, this idea that it's really important that adult humans plug back into play and how it felt to play when you were a kid and just to run and be free and, really just when we were kids, we got it right. We knew what we were doing. So that's what came up for me as you asked that question. And thanks for this. This is really cool.
That is a really cool idea too. Play and creativity. Thank you, Sarah. Juliana, do I see your hand? I'm going to mute my microphone. Please share your story.
I'm sorry, did you say Anna? Did you mean me?
I'm sorry, I said Juliana.
Oh, Juliana, okay.
Yes.
It was quiet, so
I've got a mic issue going on. I apologize to you. Juliana, did you have your hand up?
Oh, sorry. No, Dot. I was just waiting. Sorry.
Yeah,
Okay.
I have mine up if it's
Yes, please. And who was that, please?
Tamar.
Tamar,
My name,
please share your story. We'll take you as the third and then go on.
uh, um, or are you done? I had my hand up from. Should I go ahead? Um, yeah, I have a similar story to the last one in a sense from relating to childhood, but this is a why. I grew up back and forth between 0 and 8. I was back and forth between Israel and the U.S. A year here, a year there, with much older siblings and parents who were very involved in their careers and in each other. And drawing was my companion. It was sort of my echo. I could go into, I just drew incessantly. I wrote a lot too. And I became an illustrator. My mother's an artist, I should say. She's 97 and still paints every day. And my grandmother was an artist. But my other siblings didn't become artists. I did. And I think in part it was just my natural, I mean, I didn't even think of doing it as a career. It was just a natural thing to do. And now I look at things that I did as an illustrator. I've been in the Atlantic, I've been in the New York Times and things like that. And what's really almost strange is that the ideas I have, the things that I do as an adult in my illustration and hopefully and now in VR, I did as a 4-year-old, I did as a 3-year-old. The things that interested me, the things that moved me are related to things I did as a little kid. So I think it's really interesting for all of us also how we're versions of ourselves as children, and it applies to my career.
That also kind of goes right back to what Sarah was saying about play and how we played as children. And wow, what an amazing gift. I want to be when I'm 97 still creating things. Thank you. Did I miss anybody else's hand? We've all had a few tech issues this morning. I don't want to go by without taking someone who's raised their hand.
I could do one.
Yes, please.
So, a couple of decades ago, I was wandering around the freezer area at Gelson's in Silver Lake, and Nick DiMartino came up to me out of the blue. I had worked with him at the American Film Institute on a conference that included a new media playpen. And he said, "You're exactly what I'm looking for. I want you to come and run this. We have this workshop. We have $500,000 from Intel to put on an AFI-Intel enhanced TV workshop." And I just looked at him and I said, "You've got to be kidding. I'm not leaving a full-time job with Benny's to run a workshop. Make it a program and I'll consider it." So he went back, and about a week or so later, he said, "We got it. We're going to start a brand new program, and you're the director. You'll be the director." So that put me on a 10-year journey of doing kind of a lot of what I'm doing now. I immediately ended up going to, I mean, it was with very short time that I had to do it. This was in like January, and the conference and this whole event, including producing interactive prototypes of television shows, had to be done quickly. And my husband got really ill. He had to have a heart valve replacement the day that, or almost a week after I'd started. So I left my full-time job with my bennies. I had this monstrous, humongous workshop and people to meet and technology to learn. and I did it. And it was what threw me into what I do now. And I have an incredible network of people across very many platforms and media, and a lot of it really got triggered by that. So, it's the idea of Nick used to describe it as, well, if somebody asks you if you can dance, you say, sure, I can dance, sing, I can sing. Sometimes you just have to jump right into something and go for it.
What an amazing journey. Anyway, that sounds incredible. I hope your husband's doing better.
Uh, he was, but he actually passed tragically recently. So whatever you go through, something can get you anyway.
Sorry to hear about your husband. I do see one more hand here. Ariane, how about you? And then we'll go on.
Well, hi there. Thank you for having me. I want to say a special thank you to Paige Danziger for inviting me. This has really just made my week for sure. So glad to be here and share this space with you guys today. I, this what a whirlwind. I can't think of it any other way to describe, but I have this last year made some incredible career decisions to connect my newfound passion with XR with some of my skills, talents, and abilities. And I have found myself in a really incredible place now where I can uplift, inspire, and build the community of XR, the women in it, and their allies. And it tickled me when we were just discussing our childhoods and some of the things that kind of we experience maybe as creative people, and that was a huge part of my existence. And for some reason there was a moment where in adolescence, when I was making decisions about what was next, going to college and all of that, where it was not really in the conversation to pursue that as a career path. And so everything in my whole world, like it was the natural next step of growing up, now no longer living in the wonder and curiosity of creating for some reason. And nobody ever said that. It's just what was kind of accepted. And so I had to get a big girl job and go to school and do all of that. And so for me, there was something really powerful in my youth with music and any kind of creating art. Technology at that time, I had a household that I was, privileged to be exposed to technology and creating. And so for some reason, that whole side of me kind of shut down. So this has really brought back a lot of that, because we're in an incredible time in a creator's world. It's like a incredible place and time to be. And for me, it feels amazing. And that I can also use those experiences to draw on to help other women and to guide the needle with technology and how we community. And so I'm just really grateful and open to learning and mentorship and sharing stories. So thank you.
Thank you. And that really is what's exciting and inspiring about this, is the ability to build community, the ability to guide and inspire. I'm going to request that we move on to the next slide here. And one thing to keep in mind as you're presenting your stories and talking about what you do is that you've got a gift for your audience. I see a hand. Ariane, did you have a question before I go on? Okay, the technology is being strange this morning. There's no one that has the perspective that you've had ever, which is absolutely amazing when you stop to think about it. And what gift is it that you give your audience? Next slide, please. Are you, when you're speaking, going to be inspiring them? Are you sharing information? Are you solving a problem that they have? Are you entertaining, sharing resources, or maybe all of the above? What is the gift for the audience? What is the gift or gifts that you have that you're sharing? Well, now I'm going to move into, believe it or not, some math. And we have some folks in here, I would imagine, that are math people. I am not. I used to run for the door when somebody said math, but fortunately, we're not going to be proving 2 + 2 is 4 in here this morning. Instead, there's a certain math you can use when you're doing public speaking, whether it's virtual or in real life, and it seems to work best for keeping an audience engaged. There's one number that, if you use it, tends to keep the audience engaged. Next slide, please. Omne trium perfectum. Everything that is perfect comes in threes, says Aristotle. And I'm just going to ask you to type in the chat, if you look around you in life, what do you see that comes in threes? In sports, maybe in entertainment, maybe you see it in, for example, business, maybe literature. Anybody see anything that comes in threes? Movies. Three Musketeers, says Daish. I said movies. What else? Well, here's a bit of a trick question for you. If you're going to read, for example, Three Blind Mice, says Juliana. You're going to read Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. How many spirits does Scrooge actually see? And Sarah says trilogies are what we see in movies. That's a great one. Three Stooges, says Evie. Past, Present, and Future from Better World. DNA, wow, I didn't think of DNA. Of course, that was kind of a deliberate trick question for you. Polygons have three, because a lot of people will say that Scrooge sees three spirits. But in actuality, if you count Marley and you count the many wraiths that he sees outside his window, indeterminate number, we get drawn to three. Why? Well, if you look online, you will see a number of articles that say that our brains are automatically wired to seek patterns. Three is the lowest integer you can have and still have a pattern. For speakers, what that means is if you share three main points, you share, for example, three exercises. If you say, here are three ways you can do this or that, your audience is a lot more likely to be engaged than if you have, here are 5 things to do. Here are 7 points. Mainly because we don't like to work that hard. We're going to seek patterns wherever they are, but we really want it to be easy. 3, omne trium perfectum, is usually the optimal number when you're going to give a presentation. And I'm still seeing 3s. Film does tend to be more in 5-part episodes, and that's absolutely true. We certainly do see that. It's not a hard and fast rule. 3 just tends to work really well. Okay, next slide, please. Now, what about visuals when we're speaking? We all use slides. Visuals, according to a study done in 1996 for the US Department of Labor, tend to make your listeners remember a lot better. The US Department of Labor found that 3 days after a presentation, if it was simply an oral presentation, 10% of the audience remembered it. But 3 days after with visuals, 55% of them did. What can we do in addition to slides? I don't have all the answers to that one. Just getting into virtual venues, I'm going to guess that there are going to be a lot of virtual things we can do. But I did bring a couple of visuals here that aren't specifically slides. Next slide, and I'll see if we can get the video going. I like to do light ups when I do a workshop virtually or in person. What you see here is a very simple soft circuit. And it's a circle sewn with conductive thread. And usually when you light something up, your audience oohs and ahs. They really like it. Next slide. And on this one, I have a little video. There will be a play button in the lower left-hand corner, if you can hit it. If not, what you see here are 2 robots. These are the Ozobot. And They're actually this world's smallest programmable robot, backed by one here, by
Yeah.
one more.
I'm not sure this video is going to work for us,
All
Dot.
right, not a big deal. Those are two small robots. When they first came out, they were the world's smallest programmable robot. I've had a lot of fun when I give a presentation or Halloween presentation, either pulling one out of my pocket in a live situation or having a video of them on the actual virtual presentation I do. Anything that's a little different for your audience. And Ozobot, I did want to mention, is a registered trademark, and I am not in any way, shape, or form affiliated with them. They were just kind enough, after I found their robots at CES, to say, yes, you may use them in your presentations. Let's go to our next slide. This one is kind of a splurge. It's also a video, but as with technology, the video may not want to cooperate with us this morning. But what this is, for somebody that is non-technical like I am, it really works well. I have a snap together circuit here where you can't possibly get it wrong because it won't let you. There's a fan in the video that will blow the hearts from my virtual presentation for Valentine's Day on a little fan. There is also, and yes, what a great suggestion. Karen just said, perhaps I can share links for the video later. Gladly. I have a light that will light up, and I have little love bug, ladybugs here that will move around. And yes, these would make awesome worlds in VR, Sarah. I think we need to talk about this one. Let's go on to our next slide. And I had intended to conclude this with a brainstorming session, which, if you're fine with that, I'd love to ask you, because what I really would like to ask you is, does anyone here have an obstacle that they face in public speaking? Next slide, please.
Well, I had a dream the other night that, that I was about to go speak somewhere, and I was all dressed up, and but I had nothing prepared, nothing at all. Didn't know what I was going to say. I don't normally have a great fear of public speaking, but yeah, that was kind of odd that that obstacle came up. Lack of preparation, lack of time to prepare. That's an obstacle.
And in real life, you would probably never go to anything unprepared, although lack of time is a great one. What's everybody do? How do you troubleshoot lack of time? You want to give a brilliant speech. Any suggestions from anyone on how do you work with that? I see a hand. Better World.
Thank you. Well, I guess my idea for time navigation, I could come up with one, but I had an obstacle as well. I guess for time navigation, I would just say, even if you're crunched for time, and you only had 10 minutes to prepare, to plant your feet just like they were trees in front of you, and to breathe and say your name and remember that your ancestors are with you and your next generations are with you, and take a breath and just speak from your authentic heart. There's no way to screw it up.
Oh, I love
And
that.
yeah, thank you. Yeah, if you imagine your feet are like a tree, and you're going to sit stronger and breathe stronger and feel rooted to the earth. And just that moment of pause or visualization is really helpful. The obstacle that I find, that used to really overwhelm me, and that people often feel, or I host these women summits where women are able to share their truths in the metaverse. And when before a lot of people speak, they'll write me personally a message saying that they feel really nervous, that they're afraid that they'll start to feel too emotional. And I always like to tell people that there's a brain hack actually before you speak, that if you're feeling really emotional, for instance, if you come from a background of trauma, or if you felt like you had to overcome so many obstacles to be standing where you are today, that can overwhelm you in those moments. And so just start to count. And if you start counting, you don't have to start at 1 and you don't have to count to 10. But if you just start counting 23, 24, 25, it'll switch your brain from your emotional side to your analytical side. And if you do that, it really helps.
Heard that before. What a great tip. Thank you.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing that.
Seriously. Sarah, I think I saw your hand next.
Okay. Oh, great. Well, I was just going to say that I taught for 17 years, and I am really far on the introvert scale on any personality test you could ever give me. And I've only grown more introverted as I've grown older. And so my obstacle, is my introversion and how exhausting I find being around large groups of people. And then how do I deal with obstacle? I love what Better World just said. I meditate every single day. I've done that for 25 years. And, that's the singular most thing I do that helps me with my anxiety and dealing with everything, including public speaking. Thanks.
What a great tip. And I kind of think that introverts make the absolute best speakers. That is just my personal opinion, and I happen to be an introvert. Is there anyone here I missed? I sure hope not. All right, next slide, please. Oh, I apologize. I missed the chat here. Jace said that she gets really hot speaking, but not nerves, just getting really hot. I hope that you have room temperature water there to sip days. I'm not going to suggest ice water because that tends to constrict your vocal cords. And Evie said I talk really fast. I wish I had an answer for that one, Evie, because I do the same thing. Anyone before we go on have a suggestion for talking really fast? Because the more information you have, the more you're likely to go, and that's not good. No? Okay. We'll just have to keep working on that really fast because it bites me too. Just before I prepared the presentation, a couple people mentioned to me, I have imposter syndrome. My suggestion, I'd be interested to hear what you have for this as well. Yeah, I get that too. And the thing I always ask myself is, would you say that to a stranger on the street? Because in our minds, when we have imposter syndrome, we say things that in all probability, we would not say to anyone else but ourselves, people we know best in the whole world. Is there anyone else here who deals with imposter syndrome, and how do you do so?
Always. Every time I jump into something new, I'm like, what am I doing here? How did I get here? And how do I get out? And so I figure my way through it all. But I remember I was, having a real bout of imposter syndrome, and one of my mentors at Fielding Graduate University, so yes, Sarah Parker, I also went there, she knows that, um, kind of talked to me about it. It's the first one to really explain that, introduced me to it. And then I had gotten her on a panel on VR and AR, so that's XR, what I call whatever. And she started freaking out a little bit a few days before and was having a lot of imposter syndrome. And I told her that that's why she was there. All the people had all this technological knowledge, needed someone like her to balance that out and kind of help humanize this in the panel. And it was great. And she got hired for a bunch of speaking gigs after that. Let me sit down again. Sorry.
That is absolutely awesome. I have talked to people on my podcast who work in space science and who do incredible things in VR, and they say they have imposter syndrome as well. And I think I just saw a comment. Kelly Faye says, yes, every single day. Would you like to share with us how you come around that, Kelly Faye? How do you deal with it?
Oh my goodness. Well, thanks for asking, Dot. I don't very well. That's the whole thing. I would love strategies and tools to deal with that because I feel I feel very exposed right now.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that to
No,
you.
it's okay. No, but it's really helped. And Anna Marie, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, you're so established. I think I can't even. That doesn't even comprehend for me that you would
Entrenched.
feel imposter syndrome. So yeah, I wish I had strategies to deal with this. I don't. So feel free to share anyway.
One other thing that I like to do, and I hope this is helpful to you, is I'll write down what I'm thinking just before I give a presentation. And then I'll look back at it 3 months later and think, well, when I told myself, no, they don't want to hear you. This is ridiculous. You're nothing but a big kid, things of that nature. And then later, if it went really well, I'll look at that and think, you know what? That wasn't true. The things that you say inside your head during imposter syndrome usually are not. Did I see another hand here before I go on about imposter syndrome? Can we have the next slide? And the final issue we deal with is something that kind of bit us a little bit today, tech gremlins. I would be curious how people deal with that with virtual, especially because the one thing you can ever count on with technology is it's going to be unreliable. For a moment there when we started, I was kind of afraid you wouldn't hear me say a word because the audio wasn't really cooperating too well. There is a way that I can suggest troubleshooting, but has anyone else any thoughts on tech gremlins? And by the way, I love that Karen just says, yeah, tech is great when it works. That is the absolute truth. Yes, Sarah.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to comment that I think what you're doing is exactly what I would recommend doing, which is that you're not drawing attention to it, you're not pointing at it, you're just continuing on with your presentation. And I think that's a big part of being able to deal with tech gremlins when they arise in a presentation. So thanks for doing that.
Thank you. That's the truth. If we don't go, oh, shoot, that wasn't supposed to do that. Nobody knows it wasn't supposed to do that. Yes, Anna Marie?
Yeah, having dealt with all kinds of tech from editing videotape with razor blades and a stopwatch to, VR, AR and demonstrations of it, a lot of times proprietary things that couldn't be replicated. I learned to just kind of calm down about it and I treat it like earthquake preparedness. You can be as prepared as you want. Have a kit in your home, your office, your car, and you can still be walking from your car to your office and things can come down. So it's being ready and understanding that you can't be too ready, because if anything is going to go wrong with tech, it probably will. You can just do the best that you can to be prepared for that and be ready to fill. That's when it's time to tap dance and fill in those blanks.
Juxtaposition of that with an earthquake is really interesting because that's true. You can't possibly prepare for an earthquake. Yes, Julie.
Yeah, I just tagging into that is, where we're at in our world of innovation and then how things are changing so quickly and things are being added. And this is a really important piece that you have to keep going on. I saw somebody said just keep swimming, and that's true. Like you have to keep going, and there's always going to be something wrong. And I think if you put that in your mind of just like, yes, it's not going to go right, or something new is going to be added, or it's part of how we're dealing now with exponential growth. So the sooner we can kind of present ourselves as feeling confident even when things aren't going right, and it lends itself back to technology. It's because everything's changing so quickly, so fast. So trying to muster up that confidence that's that will be instilled in you, not just one day but every day. And it's a form of agility that we have to have in our beings right now as we're learning things so quickly, implementing them so fast. I think the other piece is managing expectations on the other side. Currently I'm dealing with a client and they're like, yep, we know you're building it as we're flying it right now, and you don't have all the answers. So it's good to have that kind of open conversation about innovation right now, as nobody knows everything and not everything's perfect, and it's going to take time to build and update and fix that. So just, stay strong with that confidence of just that's the way it is right now, and it'll just help you build more confidence into your conversations and presentations.
I
What
always
if-
used to liken it to changing all 4 tires on the car while driving in the fast lane.
Yeah, exactly. Building the plane as you fly it, right? Like it's the same thing.
Yes, yeah.
That's what we're constantly doing right now. So, get over it. Don't worry. The client or the end client's scared. So you have to, show confidence in the fact that you know that things may go wrong and it's okay. You'll do it together. So it's a very different way than we used to do business, when we knew the solution and it wasn't going to change every day or hour. And just having that open relationship with your clients as you're dealing with technology that's evolving so quickly is really important. Yeah.
Exciting that we all get to learn together. Dish, I'm going to take you as our final comment today, because I realize everybody's busy, and I just realized we've got 5 minutes left at that. So what do you think about this?
Well, I was just going to mention, recently I was going to do a demonstration of ChatGPT, and I promise you, most of the time my ChatGPT would come up. I was a beta tester, so it would come up normally. I mean, even when other people's with my ChatGPT always worked. Well, lo and behold, that particular day, ChatGPT was too full. I couldn't get in. And so my backup plan, which I did have a backup plan, was just to show some screenshots, and I was able to show screenshots. But now, in retrospect, I think I should have looked at some other sites ahead of time as well, to see if those sites would work for me, just in case the site I was planning on didn't work. And so that would be my tip. Screenshots are nice, but also backup sites are also good.
What a great point, too. Next slide. Plan B is what will really help you a lot of times. But I love that there was someone who just said, be sure to ask for help, and it's okay to ask for help. I don't want to go too far over your time. Do I have a couple more minutes, or do I need to wrap up here?
I think we've got a couple more minutes, Dot. Why don't you keep going?
Yeah, I'd love to take Julie's comment, and then I have some resources to share.
Sorry, I forgot to put my hand down. I don't have a comment. It's okay. Go ahead.
Oh, all right.
Sorry about that.
In that case, next slide, please. Few resources if you'd like to know more about public speaking. Everybody here is pretty much a seasoned speaker, I think, but if you would like to take it to the next level, I went looking for some inexpensive resources or free. Coursera, while they do charge for courses, does have more than 100 free ones right now. I'm also a member of 2 Toastmasters clubs. They have clubs all over the world, and they will allow you to sit in on any of their virtual meetings, which have been virtual since the pandemic. And then, since all of us are pretty much on LinkedIn, I think, LinkedIn Learning has public speaking courses as well. The one I saw that I really liked was by Laura Burgels. And she has something like a 15-part presentation on public speaking. Even if you're super experienced at this, there are a lot of things that she says that can take you to the next level. And may we have the next slide, please? I'd like to leave you with this quote. Just in case that imposter syndrome happens to bite, if you're comfortable with yourself and you know yourself, you're going to shine and radiate. Said by nobody other than Dolly Parton, who really would know all about this. Final slide. And thank you for the honor today of getting to speak with you. If anybody would like to get in touch with me, there's my contact information. And once again, thank you.
Woohoo! Well done, well done. Woohoo.
Thank you so very much, Dot. That was great. Really wonderful, and I love the way you engaged everyone here, and we got to hear some personal stories. We're all here because we are working in XR, so we share the industry and interest in the tech, coming at it from a lot of different perspectives. But we are people with stories to share and with vulnerabilities and all sorts of experiences, and it's nice to be able to talk about them in this safe environment. A lot of wisdom shared here today. So I will close out our event for today. Again, thank you so very much, Dot. We really appreciate your contribution to our community. And if some of you would like to hang out for a while and chat informally, you're welcome to do so. But we will officially bring this meeting of XR Women to a close. See you next week.